Call this meeting to order of the Board of Finance at 7:01 PM. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let's see. I do not see anybody on here for public speak. So, oh, here's Rob is just starting to collect.
Hey there.
Hi, Rob. All right, we got Rob. All right. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I don't see anybody for public speak, so we can get that. Does anybody have any additions or deletions to the agenda items? None? I don't have any, so absence of that, I hear none.
Diane,
Yes,
one quick question. Do we have to add or mention if we received like an email from the public? I mean, I'll bring that up at some point, but I mean, just a small overview of it. Do I have to mention that now or?
we do not have anything on this agenda for receipt of correspondence. I guess we did not anticipate that, so.
We could treat it as public speak, I guess, if you want to mention what was in it, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. So do
um,
we do it at the beginning or the end? We have two public speaks. We can do it either way.
I guess I can do it at the end. I mean, I just want to make sure I follow the rules. You know, if I receive something, do I mention it out
Okay.
loud? I mean, it'll be brief and yeah, I'm happy to mention it at the end.
Okay, all right, so we'll put that down into public speak at the end.
and then the only other thing, you know, I'm sure you guys all got the same email I got from Amanda. If that's still, my take is that's still the Board of Selectmen.
That's a Board of Selectmen thing. They have a special meeting tomorrow where they call
Okay.
to deal with that, so.
Good.
I don't think we have
I
to
just,
mess
you know,
with it.
didn't want to act like we weren't aware of it or we weren't dealing with it if it was somehow in our court, but I didn't think it was.
No. Thank God, we got enough to do.
I do think we have plenty.
Plenty to do.
Hey,
Okay.
Joanne, I have a good question. Is that correspondence in regards to the budget? Because should that be directed over to the website? So it's recorded?
Oh, yeah,
No, I guess, and I don't know how many people get individual emails from the public. I think if someone's emailing us directly, I would encourage people to go to the budget email that we have set up so we can get it all together. Some people don't want to do that because they just want to email one person because they don't want it public. So it's a fine line. I don't know. But I think if you're getting information from the public, I think you should share it with the group. So we at least understand what people are thinking about.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why Louise, that's why I thought I would bring it up. And it's, it's just general questions. So I
Yeah.
think there'll be time down the line for them to ask the questions, but I definitely wanted to mention it in case I'm supposed to, being my first year on the board. Want to do the
Understood.
correct thing. Thanks.
Gotcha.
Does that work for you, Louise?
It does.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. All right, we are on to item 4, the town administrator's report.
So I have no report at this point. I think everything I want to say, we're going to cover within the budget discussion.
Okay.
Unless, of course, you have questions for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Eric on town administration stuff? No? No? Okay.
I do have one quick favor to ask. And that is, you all, if you make a motion, just make it slowly because I'm also doing the minutes for this meeting.
Okay. Hopefully, we don't have to make any motions today. Make it easy. All right, Finance Department report. Sherry, can you walk us through the finance reports and give us highlights of things we need to be concerned with, what we're looking at? And
Okay.
what's going on?
I gave you a copy of the revenue report in detail, 2022. And this one is for February, the month of February. Going through this, I just want to point out the telephone access revenue for $5,000. That's telecommunication companies, personal property tax payments. We get a letter in from the Connecticut.gov, Patrick Sullivan, saying that municipalities will be receiving property tax payments from SNET and AT&T. And they give us the amounts for each vendor and then a total amount that we'll receive from 21-22. We had budgeted 5,000. We're slated to get $4,257.63.
When does that come?
Any day now, actually, because let's see when the email we received at the end of February. So I would assume that sometime before the end of March, we should be receiving that payment.
Okay.
Sherry, did the email say what we would get for the next year?
Did not, it just said 2022.
Yeah.
I can look up a little further. I know they had 21, 22, and then they had 2021. So I verified that we did in fact receive the payment for 2021, which was 5,096, I believe. And
Last fiscal year. Okay, last fiscal
yeah,
year.
last fiscal year. I just wanted to
Yeah.
verify and make sure that we got in what we're supposed to. So we did, and then the only tab underneath was the 21-22. So that's information, just so we know that we will be receiving that money. And then the historic documents present grant, the land, it's a land records preservation that is given to municipalities to preserve their records in the town clerk's office. We did receive $5,500. And municipalities get this every year to help preserve their historic records that is kept in the vault.
Okay.
And then on the second page, under miscellaneous, I looked that up. And there was a credit there, $420.48. That I need to reclassify into the tax account. For some reason, it was put in that account. It's miscellaneous taxes. It should not belong there. And I will be journalizing that in the month of March and putting it where it needs to be. And that will go under current grand list 101 account. So ECS, we did receive half the amount so far. We're scheduled to receive the other half over the next few months. And I don't think there's anything else out of the ordinary.
I just have one question on the prior year's taxes. We don't have anything recorded under year-to-date revenue. Yeah,
Understand. I took care of that, researched that problem today.
okay,
And what happened was, it was booked to an accounts receivable. When the money was received, it was automatically debited to an account receivable for different years, 2015, 2017. They had different accounts receivables for each year that they
Right.
received it. Okay, so what I have to do is I have to take those receivables and I have to make a journal entry, adjusting journal entry, and pull those amounts and put them into prior year taxes because they are in fact prior year taxes for 2021.
The prior years that we received this year, so they go in this year's numbers, but they could be from any of the previous years.
Right, exactly. That's what I mean. So
Yeah.
I talked to the auditor about it. He said, just do an adjusting journal entry, give me the adjusting journal entry when we're doing the audit. He said, we'll make sure to record that in the records. So it did go appropriately to an accounts receivable. It's just that it wasn't booked to revenue.
Okay,
So what I have to do is pull it and reclassify to revenue.
and just make sure that our revenue tab on the spreadsheet is correct too, right?
Yes,
So,
I did today.
okay,
And then the same thing with interest. When I came on board in March, I recorded the interest and the fees properly in the accounts that they should have gone to, which was revenue 103 for interest and revenue 104 for fees. Prior to that, it was recorded again to an accounts receivable earmarked for those two categories. So I will go back and I will do the same thing as reclassify that from those receivables to their respective accounts, 103 and 104. I'll give all the documentation to the auditor so that he includes it in his audit. And I will reflect, and it's already reflected on the spreadsheet moving forward, the 2021.
so when you have all those revenue accounts cleaned up, could you just run an updated revenue report and just shoot it out to all of us so we have?
Yeah. Yes, I didn't have it as of yet, but I will be making those
Yeah.
entries tomorrow. So I can do that. I can rerun the revenue report for you. So then when I finish doing that, I'm going to recheck. I'm going to check this year's on 21, 22 and make sure that that's appropriately recorded as well.
The
So that,
municipal revenue sharing account, I know we budgeted $20,000. We've only gotten $3,000. Does that money come in later in the year? Is that something we should be looking at? Or do we
Yeah.
have the money? We just haven't found it yet.
I was told that it does come later in the year.
Okay, all right.
I'm going to pull a state report that gives us all our payments to double check.
Okay.
Make
all right.
sure when, in fact, to make sure, first of all, that we didn't get it, and I know we didn't, because I haven't seen it come in. But then the other thing is I'm gonna look at previous report year to see when approximately it will come in.
Okay.
But I think it's gonna be later on in the fiscal year that we'll receive that.
Sherry, can I make one suggestion?
Sure.
And that is we have 000239, which is labeled telephone access. Every time I look at that, I never understand what I'm looking at.
You
Can we
did you just see, hear what I said as far as what it is?
Right, but what I'm saying is, can you change the name to reflect what it is? Because telephone access to me I don't really understand. every time I look at that, I don't understand what that is.
Sure. I can change it to telecommunication tax payments. I
Perfect.
don't know, something like that.
Is that okay with the Board of Finance? I just want wherever possible, these things to make sense and to be easy to understand what they are.
Right, so it's telecommunications personal property tax, right? So,
Right.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with that. Let's make it make sense.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, also in the packet, I did give you a detailed 2022 expenditure report. Again, it's for the month of February. And after that, I gave you a general ledger trial balance to just show all of our accounts that we have in there. And then a checklisting as far as February goes, February 1st to February 28th.
can I go back to the expenditure report?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted
See,
to
you
get
added
out
the
what I
new
gave you.
column, current expense, which, thank you. I love having that there. But
Yeah,
then,
put that in, like when we have transfers, I'm gonna put a transfer in and transfer out column in between so that we have like a amended budget column as well. So I'll be able to add those two as you suggested. And then I'm going to put a notes column in at the end. And I'm gonna add, I didn't get a chance because I just came back from vacation on Monday, but I'm gonna add that notes column and all the notes that we have put forth in your spreadsheet
okay,
with the detail.
okay,
And then add the other ones that I know about.
okay. Just quick question about format. Now, we lost our subtotals by department here. Like the control totals have no percentage used now. Can we get those back in there?
Yeah, I'll put them in.
Okay, and then also just for format, when we go
Is
to
this-
the next page, we have no column headers as we go to
Right.
the other pages. And we
Remember, I put this in Excel, so what I have to do is I have to build it. And I have to add those things, and I didn't have time to do that today.
Okay, yeah, we just need that because it's hard to. keep track of
Understood.
the columns. All right,
Yep.
Um,
And you still want it in Excel, right? This is good in Excel?
I
As
like
a
it in
PDF?
Excel, but it comes over as a PDF. So when I say it's in Excel, I would like, and I know if you want to send one in PDF to be the official one that can't be modified, and then give us one in Excel so we can then.
I can do that.
And then one in Excel so we can make our own notes in it. and add
Right,
a-
okay.
Because this
All
is
right, that's
now,
fine.
this isn't a PDF of an Excel doc. I can't modify it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I gave it to Amanda in Excel and she did it into PDF to send it, so I will make sure that, comes over in Excel next time, and I will send you the Excel version right now. Tomorrow morning I'll send it to you. So you'll have it. Going down here
Yes,
on the different accounts. I want to point out the contracted software maintenance tax collector account, 438, 0111 438. We did receive the refund, and we received it in March and deposited it in our account. So in March's report, that will reflect, it'll be, we will be whole in that account. And we received a total of 11,448.03. Some of that is to do with postage, so that will go to the postage account. And the balance will go to this account, making up
so
what
that's
we.
between the tax collector and the assessor. Okay.
Yeah,
So it's fixing the tax collector line. Okay.
right, with that, we're gonna fix it and it'll be
Yep.
fixed in March.
Okay, And that'll fix that.
I just
Okay.
want to let you know, we did receive the total payment and we're gonna be making that adjustment to that account.
Perfect.
The annual audit for the auditor is correct. We expect to get another invoice from him, excuse me, $11,000. He will be showing up tomorrow morning between 8:30 and 9, and I will be working with him and his account manager all day to finish up what he needs to finish up. Mostly, he's focusing on the town. The bulk of the town is that he has to tie everything into. And I have to run some more reports for him. So I'll be working with him all day.
Okay.
Just want to let you know.
So we have one payment left for them, $11,000?
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're not gonna pay that until he gives us the report.
No,
right?
he doesn't bill us until he's all set.
So it's
He
all
gives us a
set.
draft and he sits down with us and goes over it and, you know,
Does he have an exit interview with you?
with me and Eric, he's
Okay.
going to schedule one.
Can you let me, I would like to attend that, so can you let me know?
Sure.
I'll make myself available, so you don't have to
Sure,
work on my schedule.
Tomorrow I will be talking to him, so I'll see when.
I'm
he
assuming it's a
expects to have
conference
that.
call of some sort.
What's that?
It's a conference call or a Zoom meeting or,
Yeah, something like that. I would assume, yeah.
so,
He's only coming out because there's a lot of things that he can't really do by scanning documents and things like that. So he's got to come in person. And I'm glad he does because there's a lot of documents that he needs to review and that can't be scanned quickly. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on that one.
so what do we think? Maybe by, what's?
His extension is March
Okay.
31st.
Oh, okay, so he's got to get it done by the end of the month, right?
Yes,
Okay.
before the end of the month, actually.
Okay.
So, and you know, like I said, to him, working with him tomorrow and I'll continue to work with him till he's done. And we get it wrapped up. Let's see, I'm trying to see of any other things. The software maintenance town office building. It's 0129-432. I'm sorry, 439. Software maintenance,
Town office building? Hold on.
town office building, the software maintenance count 439, it ends.
Oh. Town office building, okay, software
It is,
maintenance.
it is 7,501.60 in the hall. And that's due to point and pay software for the building department is also in there. We don't have a line item for that. We hope to maybe take a look
But
at
did we
that.
have a new piece of software that we did not budget for? Is that what we're saying?
We just recently got that point and pay that, so they can pay online, the fees online in the building department. That recently came through. That was
So
something I was
that's-
working on. And we
So-
finally got it in.
That's Permit Link, is that what we're talking about? Permit Link, so that was like the
That's-
online,
That's
So it's
something,
It's the online payment service for Permit Link. So
yeah,
we can actually
Yeah.
collect payments online. And no, we did not anticipate that last year when we were budgeting.
it works in
Oh.
conjunction with Permit Link.
okay, I get that, but how come we didn't find out about it until we just got it? I mean,
I was asked. to-
somebody authorized going out and
look into
getting it because it's outside the budget. I mean,
That was something I was asked to look into and get a cost on.
I don't remember the history on this, Eric. I remember when we talked about Permit Link and how it was gonna pay for itself and blah, 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 blah. But then,
Right.
and I
So,
remember. Okay, go ahead.
so Permit Link overall pays for itself. However, one of the problems we had is we have been stuck with just having people do everything online and then submit an actual check. And what we needed to do is we needed the ability to work with a vendor so we could pay directly. That vendor is already pre-set up with PermitLink. Unfortunately, they charge a pretty hefty fee to connect into it, but it's fortunately a one-time fee. So every other fee from this point forward is paid for by the applicant for building permits. And if you look at the building permit line item in the budget, you'll see we've already collected, some $15,000 more in, in building department fees this year than we anticipated. So we're easily covering that in the fees we've collected compared to what we budgeted.
Our budget's getting very tight. I'm getting very concerned towards the end of the year because I do not want to hit a deficit anywhere. So, so this is a one-time setup fee to get this piece installed. There is no annual subscription. There is no inflationary cost that they're going to change a fee. There's not going to be an access charge or a subscription fee going forward.
Well, there is an access charge, but that charge is paid for every single person who pulls a permit has to pay the cost of the fund fee for using the online payment system. So none of those costs are borne by the town.
So a customer coming to the town to file for a building permit, if they want to pay online, they have the option, but they get disclosed online that there's an additional fee for doing that.
Correct,
Correct.
They can opt to pay it, or they can opt to bring you a check,
correct.
kind of like how we do the taxes. No, I would never pay my taxes online because we charge too high of a fee. So I would
Okay,
I'm paying 3% to file my taxes.
but they bear the cost, not us, so,
But they have an option, right? They don't
Right.
have to pay online, right?
Right.
yeah, right. They do
But-
have an option.
But in towns that have converted, the vast majority of people pay online, not directly. In fact,
That's
it's kind of holding up the permit, slowing down the permit process by requiring that extra step.
But what I'm asking for in that contract, there is no subscription charge to us or any annual maintenance fee or any other kind of subscription fee that the town has to pay to keep this active. If you don't know that, send me the contract. I'll read it.
I can give you a copy of the contract.
I just want to make sure we budget for it correctly. So
Mhm,
But yeah,
Yeah.
understood.
Understood. I'll provide that
what's it called again?
Copy
What's
here.
the, it's payment, what?
point
What's
and
it called?
pay,
Point and pay.
point and pay.
Mary,
Wait,
what was the cost
permit
on
link.
that for the point and pay? Was it like 3,500, did you say?
No, it's-
That we weren't, I mean, I understand the whole concept. I think it's a good concept. I get it. What was the dollar amount that you said it was to get the
I-
ability to pay online?
I'd have to give you the contract, copy of the contract. I don't know off the top of my head.
No, I knew you said that it went over and I have the line here. Okay, no problem.
It's been a little while since I.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so we're over budget by 200%. So we're over $7,500. So it's got to be up there around that cost.
Oh, gotcha. Yep.
Yeah. So look at the contract. We'll look at
You
that.
figured it out because I went silent during the Pledge of Allegiance under God. But other than that, I haven't said anything.
Rob, we can hear you.
And he's muted, so that's a new one. That's
No, he
interesting.
wasn't muted, so he thought he was muted.
Diane, is it
Uh,
okay if I ask her a question?
This is very strange because I. Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right,
Now we can.
that's odd because I was muted.
Okay.
okay.
Now you're showing
Okay.
us unmuted.
Yeah, I know. I just clicked
Okay.
on mute to talk to you.
Okay.
But if I mute again. Right, you didn't hear any of that. Okay, so
Okay.
I don't know what that was.
Okay.
Huh, On page 5, if we go to health insurance town garage, it's 0309-215. I will be making journal entries to transfer those 2 amounts. One is $300 for drug testing, and the other is $110 for health insurance for one of our employees. So I have to reclassify that into our employee benefits line.
So
That
I want to make sure.
Initially did not get moved. The 110 did not get moved, so I have to journalize that. And
Is
put where-
this really supposed to be their
What's
annual
that?
physicals, their physicals? Is this supposed to be their physicals?
Well, drug
insurance.
testing is, there's a fee for drug testing, which is, that's in the seniors transportation driver.
But even for the town garage, they would have to do annual physicals for their CDLs and things
Right,
like
I
that.
believe so, yeah.
So
So,
that's not really health insurance then, because I think in our.
No,
budget spreadsheet,
no, it's
something
not,
different.
but I'm putting it towards the physical lineup, the 110.
So. And you have physicals and employee benefits. It's not an employee benefit. It's a cost to us.
It's, it's under the employee benefit line.
Yeah, I didn't know why. So we put $750 in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know,
Or to you, Jay or Eric, that it's not in public works, if it's for public works?
I don't
So-
know the history on this, so.
So that used to cover physicals for public works, potentially for senior transportation drivers, and also for the fire department. That's why it was there and it was not within the public works budget. That was later, the fire department physicals were then taken out of that because that was a constant complaint from the fire department as they never had enough money for their physicals. So we separated those two, and that only accounts for physicals. But the town also has a contract through CCM for a provider to do random drug testing. And we do random drug testing of all our drivers. So Public Works, the Public Works foreman, and the senior transportation drivers all are subject to random drug tests. And then we also have the ability to random drug test other employees if we need it through that program.
So is that line item, that's that 280 account supposed to be for CDL physicals and random drug testing? For everybody, fire, senior, public works?
Public Works, fire,
Not fire anymore.
station,
It was fire at one time. Fire now
Oh.
is accomplished in the fire department's
in their
budget
own thing?
itself.
Okay.
Right.
The fire department has it in their budget now.
Okay.
Correct. So we only budget for public works and for transportation out of that.
There you go.
So let's not put employee benefits here because it's not an employee benefit. It's physicals and drug testing.
Okay, where would you like to see it in the budget?
Well, I
just-
mean, you can leave it in the employee benefits thing, but the label says physicals, employee benefits. I think of that as a benefit to the employee, just to know that it's really the CDL physicals, right? And the random drug testing, right?
So you want to reclassify that as,
I just-
basically CDL physicals and random drug tests.
Or drug testing, yeah, you don't have to have random, you have to say random, because I'm
Alright.
assuming everybody
Yeah.
with fire gets a drug test, right? So,
CDL and drug testing, correct?
CDL physical and drug testing. Okay.
Yeah. that's fine. Then we know what it is. Okay, that's fine. And then that account will come out of the public works then. Oh,
So you want me to move it and put it under Public Works?
you can leave it in employee benefits if it's covering 2 departments. I'm okay with that. as
Yeah,
long as you know what
okay.
it is.
All right, That's what I was gonna do, is leave it there.
Yeah.
And, you know, label it appropriately, so we'll know what it is.
Yeah.
All right, that's that one on page 5. And then on page 6, transfer station. Electricity 0701 601. That's probably gonna be over at this point. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look at the electricity bills for everything and see what it's trending and what, so we can get these electricity accounts under a better control as far as where the expenditures are.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take a look at that. I'll be starting that tomorrow. Pull those invoices.
Yeah, I mean, we know this year, our electrical costs have gone up significantly throughout the year. So it's not
Yeah.
a surprise that we're, gonna be over budget and a lot of our, certainly streetlights, some of the other lines will be over budget because of that.
Right,
You know, and we've got, and when we get to it, but keep in the back of your mind, we got to look at the old firehouse and the old town hall,
yeah,
just to figure out that we've got those right and the way to reduce those expenses for empty buildings. We can't keep letting them suck us dry.
Uh,
I don't know what the answer to that is, Eric, except tearing down the old firehouse, but
I mean, the only real answer is, building a small, standalone building to put the senior transportation vehicles in. I think given all the problems all the surrounding communities had with storing buildings or vehicles outside, I'm very leery to store those outside, and have to deal with replacing all the catalytic converters. But it's definitely a crappy building. We know it needs to come down. At some point, we need to be planning for a standalone metal building somewhere where we can store those. Or potentially reworking the cold storage facility at Public Works to store them. But that's more of a long term. There would be an awful lot of things that would have to happen to make that work.
Eric, quick question. The main concern here is security.
Security. Yeah, and it's also obviously difficult to remove snow from vehicles that are that high, especially.
I was
when
just
most
thinking
of you-
about, I was thinking about the possibility of just having like a shelter that keeps the snow off, but doesn't necessarily have, isn't fully enclosed, but that doesn't do anything for security. That's why I was just kicking that around in my head. And,
Right.
we could put a roof, a shelter to keep the snow off. But if it's open air, you have two problems. You have the security issue. And then of course, if you've got diesel engines and they get really cold, I assume that would also be an issue.
Yeah, that's going to go away pretty shortly because we're about to get rid of our last diesel bus and have all gas buses, have all smaller gas buses.
Okay.
So the requirement to plug them in or keep them warm may be going away. The harder part is just, keeping them, keeping the snow off them and keeping them from getting broken into, in my mind.
Okay. So it
anyway.
could be a pretty simple building then. Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I mean, the only thing you would really want is you would want powered garage doors because a garage door big enough to get, a full height bus in is not an easy thing to put up and down by hand,
Right.
especially when you're talking about drivers. I mean, until recently, we had an 84-year-old driver. So,
Yeah.
expecting an 84-year-old driver to climb up on a ladder and get snow
No.
off the top of
Yeah.
a bus just wasn't.
Yeah. That makes sense. Did we lose Eric?
But I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Sorry. I saw some people drop off video and I was just, okay. So that makes sense to me. But for the time being, unfortunately, like this is our best option right now, right? Using
Yeah,
the
I mean, I just don't,
existing
I
structure.
hate putting money into those buildings that are into that old firehouse, because it's really basically,
I mean, unless
eventually
we
it's just
have,
gonna fall down.
I hear you. Unless we have a replacement teed up, though,
Right,
what do we do?
Yeah,
You know?
but I guess
mean,
I'm thinking about, if that's something that needs to be planned, to me, that's one of those capital expenditures
Yep.
that's added to the list.
I was just about to go there. Like, what do we have for capital funding for a new vehicle shed? I guess you
Right.
could call it.
Right.
You know, that's something we should maybe think about.
Right.
Actually, have we talked about this at capital improvement? I don't think we have really. We've been talking about trying to fix up the buildings we have.
It's probably something CIP should take up.
Yeah.
sounds good.
I will try to remember that for the next CIP meeting. You know, we were just talking about trying to help out, trying to figure out one of the public works buildings that needs a lot of help, needs a little love.
Right,
We were focused on that the last couple meetings, I feel like.
wow.
And that's its own significant project.
Sherry, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Okay, under the health insurance and the dental, under the town positions, can you clarify why some have it and some don't? Is
Like,
it something they choose not to for the health insurance? And then
Oh.
those that do, I see it's a negative, like minus 11%. Why did it go down from the prior year for health insurance?
let's see.
Are you talking about on the expenditure report, Louise?
Yeah,
Expenditure report.
You're
No,
talking
I
about the personnel cost sheet,
yes, the individual, like.
which is
like
separate.
Oh, okay.
hundred-
Oh, that's a spreadsheet. That's the
the
personnel
spreadsheet, yeah,
spreadsheet.
Right, you're
And that's
talking about the
per-
town personnel
per-
costs.
right.
Yeah. And,
I mean, those people, they get a salary, aren't they entitled to the health insurance and the retirement? Or is it based on union negotiations or?
well, each union has the details of the health insurance in there and what we have to go by for each individual.
But we do have
Um,
employees, Louise, that do not choose health and benefits through
Right.
us. Because they have them with a spouse or something.
Correct.
Right, right.
Yeah, that
So-
would be another variation of why, you don't see that because it could be on somebody else's. They don't take health insurance,
Do they get
I,
any type, do they get any type of rebate or anything for not taking it? Just
They
Eric?
curious.
do.
do-
Yes,
do
they
they
do.
do?
Okay,
So
Does
the
that
Board
get
of,
shown on the? Go ahead.
that gets shown, it's not shown on the salary line worksheet, but it is shown on, it does get wrapped into the budget. And employees are allowed to take, if they opt out of health insurance, they can basically get a 50% credit for the cost of health insurance. And we have, I think, currently 2 employees that are in that category. Which is good because it cuts the town's cost in half from them insurance.
And that's showing up under the individual?
stipend is shown in their salary expense?
Yeah. They get that
Uh,
added to the salary?
it gets, essentially, yes,
Because it runs through payroll, like, because, right?
It runs
'Cause
through payroll,
correct. It
yeah.
runs through payroll.
it should be in salary, so it should be
Yeah.
in the salary numbers.
Right.
Okay. Why are some of them, why is most of it reduced from the prior year? Did the insurance go down? I never see insurance going down.
We took a insurance holiday this year in the consortium for health
Oh.
insurance. They did so well that they offered us in the group, which is Andover, Marlboro, and Hebron, a -4 reduction. So we got 0% rate increase and then a -4 reduction from there
Nice.
in the health insurance. One-time thing, it's not gonna happen again likely, but that's what we were told to budget for.
Okay. That makes sense.
So there's the differences and why
Right.
we have what we have. And then I was told only one person takes dental plan. So there's a variation there as well.
Okay, thanks.
You know. All right, now to continue on page 6. If you look down below transfer station, you'll see recycling. And those 3 accounts are over. We do have contracts in place. I think in looking at it, it has mostly to do with quantities for each of the categories. I'm not sure what it is that we can do about that. So I just wanted to point that out to you.
We just have to
Yeah.
make sure we budget correctly going forward.
Yeah,
Right,
they're not very big. You know, I mean, they're low dollar amount overs.
Right.
But again, you know, I looked back last year. I looked because the year before we had been way over in, you know, tire pickups, and in 1 year we more than doubled the number of tires that got taken in by the transfer station. The first year of the pandemic, when everybody was cleaning out their houses and their yards, and you know, we had this huge, you know, expense for that. You know, the costs that are going up because we don't negotiate our own costs for recycling. We're part of a consortium called Mid-NERAC, of which Andover is a member of Mid-NERAC. And Mid-NERAC goes out and competitively bids those on an annual basis. So we have the contracts back. And what I've done is basically just taken, you know, the best estimate from previous years, you know, how much we've actually used, and then multiplied that by the increase in the contract cost to come up with next year's values. But those are another thing that fluctuate so much. You know, I feel like we could easily be off 20% over or under just based on, you know, if one guy shows up and brings an extra 15 tires to the transfer station because he's cleaning out his garage, you know, I mean, that's
Yeah. that can
Is-
happen.
Isn't there a limit on how many tires a resident can bring? And then don't they have to pay a fee if it goes above a certain amount?
no, we don't. You know, in part because that would require us tracking on an individual basis how much each person put in. And I think logistically that's difficult. The only thing we have a cutoff is, you know, we only take residential tires. You know, from time to time, people try to bring us backhoe tires and stuff like that. But we don't take those because those are really expensive per tire. I mean, a regular car tire is like $3 and a backhoe tire is $75. So we're not going to take them. Although we have disposed of Public Works backhoe tires through that program because it's still cheaper than any other way of getting rid of them.
Okay. Okay.
All right, now, page 7,
Yep.
the top of page 7, you will see wages under planning and zoning, 0803 100. That is over, and it's over because that's the board clerk. They added 2 hours per week to help out land use.
So is this a result of just increased demand?
So that was a result of a couple of things. First of all, it was a result that since we had cut the hours initially back so far for the building department. Land use was really getting shafted and they didn't have any support at all. So we added back basically 2 hours a week and took the person who was doing the clerking anyway for the land use boards and say, okay, can you come in 2 hours a week and then help out, you know, both wetlands and zoning, making sure they have the meeting stuff ready to go and the announcements and getting the public notices out. So that's what that is for.
And we made those adjustments going forward in the new budget, right?
Correct.
And their legal fees being over is really just based on circumstance?
Yeah, you know, again, it's part of the issue that legal fee covers all of the land use boards. So it covers zoning board of appeals, the zoning commission, inland wetlands, you know, and occasionally something that comes up from the conservation commission or something like that. So, but the majority of that money has gotten spent dealing with the fact that we have changed a bunch of regulations to conform to changes in state law that the legislature passed this year. It's one of these crazy things. Every year the legislature does stuff that affects zoning law, and then all the towns have to go back and adjust their regulations, you know, and that takes a fair bit of legal advice. We rely on a separate zoning attorney named Mark Brantz for that.
So it was regulatory change driven, is what you're saying?
A lot of that's regulatory change driven. There's also, you know, anytime you have essentially a dispute with an individual, you know, you might have to use the land use attorney to help out with that. So anytime wetlands is filing, you know, claims against somebody for doing something in the wetlands they're not supposed to, you would use the attorney for that. You know, looking at it historically, you know, we've generally been able to stay under $5,000, but I think, you know, given the changes that are coming through today, you know, going forward, we need to budget a little bit more for that.
Okay. All right. Okay, Sherry, onward.
And then on the bottom of page 7, library dues and fees, 1,001,800. I need to make an adjustment here for $1,596. And what that is the Kennedy, we paid Kennedy Exchange, which is for computer/software. It should have gone into the ARPA grant that the library got. So I am going to transfer that money and take it out of the grant. I set up a segue to the grant piece. I set up fund number 201, which is what we had designated for any grants. And then I'm going to categorize them, one being the connectivity grant and the ARPA library grant is also going to be under there, the 201. The adjustments will be made, and in March's report, I will give you an additional report that will have the revenue piece, 201, and then the expenditure piece, 201. So that you
Okay.
have a revenue and a corresponding expenditure.
So the expenses that are running through the library account now that are related to the grant will come out and go under that grant.
That grant, right. I remember I made an adjustment to this
So
particular,
that $43,000 year to date isn't going to change. Okay.
it's gonna change.
And library dues and fees, in our budget worksheet, it's called library operations. Can we just change the label on it? Because it's their operating account. Their
Sure,
payroll and operations, it's not dues and fees.
not dues and fees, okay.
Just say library operations.
Sure,
That's
I'll
everything.
change that.
Yeah.
Okay,
All right, so once we take that grant out and fix the expenses, this account should come into line. Okay,
yes. That's my plan, yes.
perfect.
All right, I think that is it that I noticed or was aware of. I went through all the accounts today. Took a look at them. Some are over, but they're not over by much.
I
So-
just noticed that we're starting to tip towards the top of the line here on some of these lines, so I'm just getting nervous about coming to the year end.
All right,
So,
well,
we
budget
have-
transfers are happening in April, so hopefully, we can take a look at that and continue to monitor the account.
yeah, I mean, so we should think about, next meeting will be April. May is when we do our transfers usually.
Is it May?
Yeah,
I thought it was April or some
we
reason.
have to do it according to charter. Is it 60 days before fiscal year end?
We can start doing them as of April 1st. We
Okay,
can start doing budget transfers.
right.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I thought. That's what I
Yeah.
had in my head, so
Okay,
we'll get that going and,
okay.
take a
All right,
look
does-
at some more.
Does anybody have any questions for Sherry? I don't see a TAR report in here, so,
No, I did not get a chance
Okay.
to do that, and
okay.
I believe on that trial balance is the account, the 37 account, I believe. The TAR account should be on there.
But Diane, we would not have expended anything in tar.
No, that's why
There's
I
not, there
said
probably isn't, right. I just wanted to make sure.
it's very little. I think it was like
It
400.
was 70 degrees the other day, so we may have done something.
Off the top of my,
I see Joanne Hebert, you have a question?
I
I don't know if Sherry's ready for me.
yeah, I'm ready.
Okay,
As ever.
it's just a quick one, and I know we have Jay on this meeting waiting, and I really want to be able to get to his presentation, so I don't want to keep
Sure.
you. Because I appreciate when people come on, and I know they have to get up early. So Sherry, just a quick question, if I can ask a question on, and this is a school item, and I know we went over the town, am I allowed to just ask if we budgeted or what, or I can email you this too? I just wondered when we purchased,
I prefer that you email me that. This meeting is not a school meeting. It's a Board of
okay,
Finance.
it was an expenditure.
So I
and a
appreciate
budget.
it, you putting it in writing to me, and I will certainly respond to you.
No worries.
So
I
that we don't
brought it
take up any
I
more
just want to
time.
follow through of why. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. It was a question that came up at a prior meeting and I had a follow-up. So since you were
Okay.
here, I was going to ask it. Thank
My
you.
email,
I'll email you.
email either one, town or school, and I will
No
respond.
worries. Yeah, it's not even a big, long question. It was pretty simple. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anybody else have any other questions on the expenditure report, for Sherry? Rob, Louise, Linda, nothing? Is that you, Kurt, on? Kurt, did you sneak in?
Yes, I did.
Hello.
I'm on, and
You're
I'm
sneaky. Okay,
back for
Hi,
now. So
Kurt.
Hey,
welcome
Kurt,
back, welcome back.
welcome back. How you doing?
I'm much better, thank you.
Oh, good. That's
Home
good.
home recuperating. So
Great.
Just in
at,
time to join the fun.
yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you everyone for the well wishes too, by the way.
Yeah. Anybody have any questions? We're good? All right, let's move on. Item 6, do we have any budget transfers or over expenditures requests?
No.
Okay.
I don't at this point, at this time.
Okay,
So Diane, was that a little bit better?
yes. Perfect.
Okay,
Perfect.
I'm trying.
You hit all the things that I had questions on, so
Oh, good. I'm trying. You know what I'm saying? I
I
hear you.
appreciate it a lot. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you.
Okay, old business. Community Center, Senior Center Building Committee, so I'll give you a quick update on that. I just come across an email today, the final site plan that we have, came over, I think Ed Cerisley sent it up to Amanda to post up on the website. There will be a public information session Saturday, April 9th from 10 to 12 p.m. for us to present the site plan, the proposed building renderings, and cost proposals.
Yes.
Diane, isn't that 10 a.m., not 10 p.m.?
Couple.
10 a.m. I'm
Please.
sorry, I said p.m. It's in the morning. Saturday morning, April 9th. 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Sorry. So if anybody has the architects will be there. They'll have their drawings, the big blown up drawings. So it's going to be in the community room. So we'll do that. So we're almost done with the initial
Thank you, thank you.
conceptual drawings.
Slide, be careful.
So that's that. New business. Eric?
Okay, I just want to say one really quick thing. I had Amanda put in your packet the preliminary application for the federal local bridge program. And I gave it to you guys just for informational purposes. One, so you could see the numbers we're talking about. And two, just to tell you that if you looked at it and saw the timing listed
Okay.
there, that is their standard timing. They never make that. The earliest we would be starting construction, if we signed this now, and it's really a Board of Selectmen decision to sign it now or
All right,
not.
have you smelled,
The earliest we would be
You smell these
building would
napkins?
be about 2027.
smell like your
You're
air
not
pressure?
muted.
I'll mute, Kurt.
Okay.
All right, you're unmuted.
I muted him. Sorry, Kurt. So I'm just giving it to you because I thought it's worth a review. The two things I would point out is that we can't apply for the state design program until we have approval from the federal local bridge program. In other words, the first thing that has to happen is we say to the feds, okay, this is a bad bridge. You need to give us money to fix it. And then at some point, they're going to come back to us and say, yeah, we'll do that. And then we turn around and we immediately apply to the state and we tell the state, we want you to manage the design and pay for the design of this bridge under this other state program. And they will say, hopefully, yes. And then that will further reduce our costs for design. That saves the town about $80,000 in design costs. And it also makes our lives a little easier. Now, the reason why we're applying for this now is it looks like as part of the federal infrastructure, the federal government is going to be increasing the percentage of funding for these projects. So the reason why I want to get this thing in the pipeline is I want to make sure that if they go to 90 or 95% funding, that we have one that's already set up for that. So that's what I'm trying to do. I had a discussion with the state person who runs this program, and basically they won't tell me that they are going to increase the federal percentage of coverage for these, but he said it's under consideration. There's no final state ruling on it. But I'm just trying to set us up that if we do have that ability, that we get one of these things mostly paid for by the federal government, that we're lined up to do it. And we're probably gonna do the same thing. I'm working with the town's engineer on one of our major culvert replacement programs, because it looks like some of that money will be designated toward culvert replacement. So I'm starting the paperwork for the state local bridge program for one of the culvert replacements. That program is only a 50% match, not an 80% match, which the state one. So it would help us out even more if the federal government's going to cover an increased percentage of that. Again, we don't know. It's not, at this point, it's not obligating us to anything to fill out the paperwork and get the state to approve it. We're only obligated when we go to the next step and sign and actually join the program. So I'm just giving you a heads up that we're in the process of doing that.
Is Bunker Hill going to be part of, I mean, I know we're in process with that now. If the federal goes to 100%, would Bunker Hill be eligible for that too?
I don't know. I mean, I hope so. I
Yeah,
mean, that would be huge if they did.
right.
But I don't know whether it's going to apply to things that are already partially through the process, or if it's only going to apply to new things being applied for. And that's why I'm hedging my bets by starting the second one.
Right.
I mean, in a perfect world, we'd get them both under that, but I mean, it's probably not likely.
Maybe we'll get lucky.
Yep, and that's all I have for new business.
Okay. All right, the next thing we have is really just to focus on the budget and on public works. So, how do you guys want to go through this? Do you want to look at the spreadsheet for public works and go through the line items, or do you want to look at what Jay has provided us? Any preference?
I don't know if Jay was going, I mean, we've heard about it a couple times. Are you asking the committee or?
Yeah, I'm asking the committee, what do you want to do to review this? I mean, Jay put together us that
Yep.
whole cost for last year and anticipated cost for road work this year. But there's a lot of other things in the line items in public works. I don't know if you guys have any questions on them.
Yeah, I don't know if they were gonna do an overview. I know we've sat through, we've listened to a couple things. I don't know. I'm open to anything, whatever you think, Diane, or whatever the committee thinks. I've definitely taken a look through it.
Jay, if I might make a suggestion, you just go through and do a really quick recap of last year's road work, what you're planning on doing, rough overview of the costs. You've all got the details. If anybody
Right.
has any questions on that, go over that. And then we transition to the budget and we look at the line items in the budget.
Okay.
That seems like that might go smoothly.
All right. Evening, everybody.
Hi, Jay.
So do you all have the
Was in our packet too.
yeah, that Amanda sent over, the Word document or PDF? So I was asked to give you guys kind of a breakdown of what we did last year in expenses and basically, from the day that we were able to get out there and start doing our road maintenance and construction. So we start with our catch basin cleaning, which we try to do that every year. And the lake area by mandates has to be done every year. They want us to do it twice a year, but we can't really afford to do it twice a year on catch basin
Right
cleaning.
now?
What's that? We do catch basin cleaning every year in the lake area. And what I'm gonna do is try to do all of the town again this year. And then moving forward because the debris that's in the catch basins and that's in the pipes and the buildup over sedimentation over the years. As you clean these basins and clean inlets and the outlets of pipes, the hope is that any debris that's left in the pipes tend to flush themselves out. So it takes a couple years for the pipes to clear. We have some areas that we'll have to go back and try to do some jetting, but that's another process to clean pipes. So my hope moving forward is to split up the rest of the town and then do it every other year. So the lake would always be done every year just to prevent the sedimentation into the lake. The other areas will split. So we'll have some savings. We won't hit all the areas every year. So hopefully those costs come down a little bit. So then we look at shimming of the roads. Right now, we're in a preservation mode. We haven't really had the time to put in a reconstruction. We're looking at some areas. We got Shoddy and Long Hill that's in the pipeline. But as far as other areas of town, we're not there yet. Right now, we're just trying to put shape back into the road, get the water and the drainage areas clear, and try to get some travelability back, get the roads safe to travel on. Crack seal. We look to do some crack seal preservation, keep the water from getting into underneath the asphalt. Hopefully help us a little bit out on the frost during the wintertime. Chip seal. Everybody saw the lake area where we chip sealed this year, almost 9 miles.
Yep.
Some areas will double chip. Some of the worst areas we're not going to do a lot of crack seal. Center line striping. We try to do our main roads there, the throughways. And then the other thing that kind of we often forget about is we have to have a little money put aside for storm repairs. So for the unforeseen, and most of that requires just ourselves and a little bit of overtime. It's put into the budget, but then the materials cost for that. Pothole patching, some equipment rental, and then the purchases that we did last year too for equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, any questions on that overview as far as what you guys saw on that?
Anybody have any questions for Jay? And this $570,000. Now, is that money we have spent so far, or does this include the money we're going to start to spend in the spring too?
No, this 570,000 was spent last year.
Okay.
So
So this was fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021.
correct.
Well,
So-
no. So the roadwork season always spans 2 budgets. That's what's difficult. So
Yeah, I was gonna lead into that.
Yep. All right. I'll shut up.
So that there was a balance when I came on board of monies from the previous year, which allowed us startup money so we could start our construction season early. And I don't recall exactly what that amount was, but it was somewhere around $200,000, a little over that. So basically it allowed us to do our catch basin cleaning right away, pay that vendor. We were able to bring in the paving contractor and start paving, pay for some asphalt. And then that money coupled with what you put in for the budget allowed us to keep going and complete that.
Last year, we put in 290 into the road improvement fund. And then we had tar. And then, and that's all the money. And so 570 was the money we spent. And it came from all those sources. And we have a balance that we're carrying forward to start the spring with.
right.
Correct.
So going into this year, my understanding is what I was told is combined balance, and Sherry, you'd have to confirm this, but between road improvements and tar, there's a combined balance right now is at $346,000. Is that correct?
We would have to look at that and get you that, Jay.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
So that money, that 346,000 will get us started.
Mhm.
And whatever monies that the board approves will be added to that. And hopefully we'll have some ideas to how much the board, what the town passes as a budget for us to do road work.
So this
That will-
year, we are asking for road improvement of 330. And tar is what? We get 2 payments a year on tar?
Yes. That's around 98.
No, I believe total we get like 187,000 a year in tar.
Yeah,
Two
two
payments.
Could be off
payments,
a couple
of
thousand.
98,000 and
Right.
change.
Okay,
Mhm.
so going
it's
into the
a little
season, we
less
have
than
what
a
we're
month.
carrying forward, plus what we put into the fund and what we get for tar.
Yeah. So I have estimates now for our road work. And we have to continue on some work that we have already started. Which consists of shoddy mill. We got to get the drainage done on that. So we can get the full depth reclamation on that, as long as the section of Long Hill from Route 6 to Bear Swamp. And
Are
the other,
those pieces of the road, just a quick question. We got a grant for part of Shoddy Mill, right? So the cost
Yeah.
isn't 100% covered by the grant. So we have a grant plus the town's got to kick in some money, right?
Correct. The grant covers roughly 50% of the cost. It is ballpark about $270,000 a mile to reclaim and repave a road. So in other words, we're tackling, of our 34 miles of paved road, we're reclaiming 1 mile this year.
So that number you have under current request, 130K, that is the town portion for the.
Correct. Correct.
Shoddy Mill and Long Hill. Okay. Got it.
and then the other thing I found out today was my estimate for paving costs at $85,000. I figured roughly, because with a increase in fuel prices and oil prices, I upped it from last year from 78 to 85, and right now we're at 90 to 95. So
Wow, okay.
those costs are going to go up. Hopefully, maybe by the time we start paving, they settle down and maybe they'll come down a bit. But we'll just have to make adjustments to what we do. Where we, how much we actually are able to get done. And then depending on what you pass for a budget.
Right.
So Jay, what is the cost per ton right now for hot mix?
It's 90 for class 1 and 95 for 2.
Shit.
And so
Yeah.
that is directly fuel costs impact that
Yeah.
on inflation big
And
time.
there's some, you know, if you,
Okay.
Massachusetts, all, you know, we're not gonna go to Massachusetts to get asphalt, but people that are closer to like Palmer, Mass, it's a little bit less expensive, but right around here, we're at the 90, you know, $95 mark.
Jay, what was the number that you had for the town aid road and the road
Combined,
improvement fund total?
346, 148.
Yep, that is correct.
Okay.
I ran a trial balance as of March 22nd, and in the town aid road, we have a balance of $179,494.84. And in the road improvement fund, we have a balance in there of 166, 654.10. So the two of them combined is the total that you just said, 346, 148.94.
Expect a tar payment in the spring? Or have we gotten all of our money so far this year?
Next one's what, August?
Yeah, I think,
And I think we got all the money.
yeah, we got the January payment.
Okay,
I think, so it gets a little screwed up. This past year, the payments have come on time. Part of the reason why we had a surplus of money is because the state got an entire year behind on our payment. So 2 years ago, we did a lot less work than we wanted because, you know, we were $180,000 behind on our tar allotment. And then they paid us the previous tar allotment and the next one all at the same time. So we got this giant, you know, thing of cash, which we've been kind of carrying forward to help us do early spring work.
Yeah, and depending on what is approved, you know, we'll have to look at our proposed work and what, you know, what can we do? How much of it can we do? What I don't want to see us is starting out with a zero balance at the end of the year, because if we lose, you know, we got to do what we have to do. But if we lose the ability to have a balance, or at least a strong balance to get started the following year, it's just that much easier for us to get contractors. Sometimes I mean, it's not a lot, but sometimes we might get a better price if we get started early. You know, the early bird gets the worm. And then just getting the work done, most of your work done before summer starts, and then the paving and the final stuff happens right when everything is hot. It's just, you end up with a better product for the year. And it has all summer long to cure with traffic and everything else, and you still have time to work other areas that you have wind up cropping up somewhere. You got to do some work.
Yeah. And,
Can I
and
ask
the
you a
ob-
quick question? Oh, go ahead, Eric.
I was just gonna say, the obvious problem we run into is liquid asphalt is a petroleum product. And it does largely track with energy costs. So, I mean, right now, we're coming into a period of pretty big uncertainty with the cost of that.
Yep, that makes sense. Can you remind me, Eric, what we need to spend in a given year to simply tread water? I know we have a 10-year plan, and then we've deviated from that plan because we haven't funded the capital properly, but to just keep the roads from deteriorating, what do we need to do?
So I looked at that on the cost basis from 2 years ago, and that number was about $350,000. But that was really maximizing pavement preservation. And that was also with considerably lower liquid asphalt costs than today. So if I were to
Call it
guess,
400.
that number is closer to 400, between
Yeah.
400 and 450.
Yep.
And the other thing is that only is talking about what we need to pay for just the road surface. That's not talking about striping. That's not talking about guardrails. That's not talking about drainage. That's just, maintaining the asphalt
roads
surface
themselves.
itself.
So
Correct.
that's just chip sealing and that kind of stuff, crack sealing and,
Yeah, that's that kind of thing. Yes.
okay.
That's
Yeah,
just,
it's-
trying to stave off entropy, basically.
Yeah,
Right.
there's so much deterioration of the roads in town that just to get through the roads as we're going right now, probably you might be able to get it done within 4 years. But then at that 5-year mark, well, even in between some of the roads you did earlier, but you're looking to go back to where you started again, and you may be just doing some crack seal or a fog seal. Maybe it needs another chip seal depending on what goes on, but at some point you have to start incorporating road reconstruction into some of these roads and putting a real plan together. Takes more planning. So you're incorporating road reconstruction and preservation at the same time. Some roads you can do 2-3 times with preservation, but once you get to a certain point with chip seal, and depending on what other processes are done on those, they act differently. You'll get that material will move, so you'll start seeing rutting again, and not because of the road movement, but because of the material that's on the road. So that'll stretch out 15 years, we'll say 15, 18 years on a road if you do 3 chip seals. So that's where got to start thinking about applying some road reconstruction. And as some of these other projects fall off the list in town, maybe those monies can start being dedicated to some road reconstruction.
Yeah, I mean, I bring this up because I know that we have shorted our capital budget somewhat over the last several budget cycles. And I know that we had a plan to try and get our roads in good shape. And we were focusing, I remember when Eric first presented the plan, gosh, it must be 3-4 years ago now, Eric, where maybe 5, where you sat down and said, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go out and aggressively kind of defend the roads that are okay, and then pick and choose spots where some of the roads, the real expensive stuff is rebuilding a road bed. And we're behind, like we're not actually catching up if we're not funding this right. So I want to be clear on that, because as we go forward, all of these budgets, the last several years, are very hard, very difficult budgets. But when we zero things out, when we cut the capital and whatever, what we're doing is we're creating more and more of a backlog of this road work, and it worries me. So that's why I bring it up. That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, and some of the questions that are asked to me is, why are we paving in some areas where we should be doing reconstruction right now? And the short answer is, we don't have the budget for that. And in the manners, and Eric and I have discussed this in depth, in the manner in which we're doing some preservation now, the shimming process that I'm doing, we're doing, it's patch, and it will hold up. It's not a lot of money to in the grand scheme of things, to level things out, put shape into the roads, but it's a shimming process where you're just filling in those low spots. We're not filling in the low spots, doing a leveling course, and then doing an overlay process, which makes the road look a little nicer, but it uses up a lot of material real fast. So in doing the shimming the way we're doing in conjunction with chip seal and crack seal, because the crack seal will come after the shimming, and then the chip seal. So that works, and it'll work for a while, but it's like anything else, it's not going to last forever. And you just have then you have to go back and look at those roads, but some of them are at a point that we can't afford not to do that process. And when it goes to a reclamation, that material that you put on the road will go right back into the road base without spending a lot of money, if that makes sense.
Labor goes on when we're doing these preservation type things. Most of that is done by a subcontractor, and then the town is just filling in with drainage work maybe, or the side kind of work and traffic control maybe if they need, right? But most of that is a third party, right, that we're hiring?
Correct. So as far as we'll do the prep, we gotta shape the edges of the road, get the drainage ditches open, scrape the edges. And like you said, do some repairs to drainage and whatnot. But we have our own maintenance that we gotta do. And,
Right.
once we bring the contractors in, we set them up and let them do their thing and just oversee the process.
Right, there's the ongoing work of just maintaining the town that never goes away, and then we have these projects we're trying to layer on top of it and
Correct.
level it up. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Jay, can I add on to that, Jay? Just a quick question. So I finally was able to open this and follow along, it's so much easier to be visual and then ask a question. So what Diane said, when you guys have the contractors in town, like the 95K paving contractor for shimming of roads and the whole list that comprises the current request, do you have to keep a guy there like for the full day? Are you overseeing that? Is it just a check-in? Or
yeah,
are you-
no, that's pretty much on me. The only thing that we're as far as the crew is concerned, if the contractors do their own traffic control. If we got to supplement, maybe they need to have a pile of material picked up that they had to mill, because speaking to the contractor, he also will mill areas out. So they have a small machine if there's some spots and the material might have to be picked up to get out of the way, and we'll just send a truck over and pick it up and get it out of their way, just to move things along for them. So, because it's a
So
day
that's
rate.
a benefit, sorry, Jay, of you being in that supervisor role, which you are, but having your work crew. I mean, I know another thing that we haven't even discussed is that extra person and that in public works. So that would free up your crews to be doing the work, and you kind of checking on contractors in town, just everything that a supervisor.
Yeah, well, I do that. I'm with them pretty much. I'm with them every day.
Yeah.
So landing and checking in with them when they're in the morning, and a couple times during the day. So,
Right. No, I knew.
but
yeah.
mostly our crew has nothing to do with this other than preparation before their work starts.
Okay, thank you.
So Jay, you might want to just go over real quick, because I think it would be good to talk to the board about because one of the things that's maybe not apparent is how much annual maintenance we do outside of just road preservation, and kind of talk through the season and like, what are all the things you do, as a crew, and what is the time involved?
Okay. So, well, we'll just speak of where we are right now. So, winter's ending. During the course of the winter, we went through all our equipment, servicing it, making repairs. And and we've been out doing odd jobs wherever we needed, a little tree work here and there. We're actually cleaning up the yard out back, getting that done. We're prepping to go over to Lake Road to do a parking lot over there, near the rail trail, their parking lot, get that done. And we're gonna start sweeping here within the next week or so. So we'll get the roads swept. So that's gonna take a couple of guys, possibly 3, depending if we're close to the where we need to dump our sweepings. We can deal with just the sweeper and the truck. 2 other guys can go off and do something else. Roadside mowing is going to start pretty soon again. We tried to, this is a good time of year, early in the season, before everything turns green. We can do some of our beat backs, pushbacks, those areas that tend to grow out fast, and just keep that stuff at bay. I don't know if we're going to have time. We're going to try. We might have to go out and help out on the rail trail. We'll have to be out there at some point. And again, that's another area we want to send the roadside mower out to do some pushbacks along the trail. We try to get out of the trail a couple times a year to just mow the edges of the grass. It's at least twice. Not very often. We'll probably get a third, but we'll see how that goes. And right around the corner, first, I'm hoping by mid-April we'll be starting our drainage work over on Shoddy. So we've got quite a bit of work on Shoddy to get the drainage work done there in preparation for the full depth reclamation there. And we got plenty of other drainage problems around town that we need to do. While we're out roadside mowing, the mower is, I'm having to mow around inlets and outlets of pipes so we can get to them easier. And we service some of those areas of sedimentations starting to build up. We'll send the backhoe out in a truck. There's a lot. And working again, we got the catch basin cleaning. So catch basin cleaning, that requires a man to go with that contractor. So the guy, our employee, is marking down the basin location, taking a quick look at an inspection inside when it's clean, making notes if there's anything that needs to be done. Something that we I started this last year. So we making notes, and we'll do it again this year, see what kind of changes, if there's any changes. Some we can let go, but some we got to start making a list. We got to start doing catch basin repairs. If a grate needs to be changed, which happens every now and then, you come one and it's rusted to the point that you got to at least change the grate, and then it put on the list to change the top. What else we got? Pothole patching. We're constantly doing that, making lists, and thank you to everybody that calls in and lets us know that they're out there as well. Another big one is our tree work. Depending on what we have are allocated for trees, as you all know, there's a lot of dead trees out there, and we've been pretty successful about getting some areas done in town, and would like to keep on doing that. We have a lot of, call them onesie twosies, that are cropping up at the end of people's driveways, near a mailbox. Those become priority. And it may be where it just gotta bring in a bucket truck. But if we have a major road, long road, that's got a lot of work on it, hopefully we can bring in distinctive back in and do some major work with that. And then it's just a constant process. Storm work, storm repairs. And it just brings us into our winter season, and the whole process starts again. And then any projects that might come up, we try to see what we can do to help that, and schedule things in a manner that we don't leave one job to come do another. But sometimes that happens.
Are we done with the Veterans Monument work that the town has to? I know we provided some labor and help over there. Are we done with that now from the town perspective? I know Jerry always has his little projects he has going on, but
Yeah, I mean, for us right now, yes. The short answer is yes. The longer term answer is if there's something that comes up that we got to go and, spend a day or a couple hours or whatever, that's going to happen. But the major stuff is done, unless, something else later on down the road, they want to do something. I know there was talk about trying to do some kind of septic system someday, but that's down the road. That's planned. It's what's difficult, and not that things can't change, can't be done, is when the let's just do it kind of phase, I guess, and it happens. We try to deal with it as best we can. It's just right now we've got some work that we have to get done. And, sometimes it's hard to say no, but we just got to concentrate on getting a few of these things done now. And
Right.
I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but is attendance pretty good in your department? Because I think having your crew around is I don't
Yeah.
even know if I can ask that. So don't answer if you can't, but having your guys and having that staff fully,
well, also covering vacations. How many people have a lot of vacation time versus?
right, like taking time off or this and that.
Right.
well, I mean, it's not a question. That's not a unreasonable question, and I'm happy to say that we've got a real good crew, and attendance is good. But yeah, they deserve their vacations. Everybody deserves their time off, and there has been times where they've dedicated themselves to the job and say, well, I'll change my schedule, and instead of a long weekend this weekend, I'll make it another weekend, kind of thing.
Right.
I don't like doing that, and I haven't had to ask them to do that. They've just done it themselves. So kudos to them.
Well, that's something people don't realize. Just because you have a full-time employee doesn't mean they're working 40 hours a week. By the time you factor in, paid time off, vacations, lunches, whatever little breaks they need and everything, somebody's probably really only working 5.5 to 6 hours a day, over throughout a year. That's all you have them for. So, you don't have them for 40 hours or 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
You have a small number of employees, especially. I know the guys that work in.
Staffing model, you don't account for that. You account for all that.
Someone's out, it affects the whole dynamic of maybe the project too. So.
Right. So-
We make adjustments. We're pretty good at working on the fly.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, the other thing is that since I've been involved, kind of overseeing, one of the things I've been very appreciative of the crew is their understanding that if they are taking time off in the winter, they're still available, if we need them to plow. Because that's obviously one of our big crunch times is plowing and storm response. And the other thing is they've been very good about, once we set a schedule for when we're going to do major projects, of not blocking time within those major, you know, and being flexible enough to put off whatever time they're taking, you know, and fit it in around that. So the crew has actually been excellent for that, from my perspective.
That's nice.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that's in all works of life. I happen to work in a school, so you know the busy times. So that's great. Yeah, you just have to go with it. You don't take time off at certain times. Or you cover for someone that's out, like today, and then you do your job late. There you go. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Does anybody else have any questions for Jay?
I guess I'm just gonna ask Jay, yeah, one further question. With asking to bring on the seasonal guy as well, are we, how do I wanna say? Are we still gonna require the mowing or the expense of the mowing of the field on Long Hill? Does that help in any way, or that's a whole separate project?
You're talking about the soccer fields?
Yep.
Yeah, the soccer field, that's run by the recreation, and that would not be something that we would be doing. Yeah, the mowing and striping, and we're not equipped for that.
Okay.
So, bringing on a summer help, basically that speaks to having somebody following the roadside mower. Letting that person concentrate on mowing, get that stuff done, and the guy would serve two purposes. One, a little bit of traffic control, a traffic guard, you know, with the vehicle, but trimming around the guide rails, the guardrails, signs, any low-hanging branches that blocking signs. We can schedule in some sign replacements along the routes at that point in time as well. So, and then if there's a point where they not needed with the roadside mower, we can have them come and help us with some construction projects. So, you know, it's a use person, but more dedicated to, you know, some of those. I don't want to have to take the guy off the roadside mower if I can help it, and have them spending, you know, a week of trimming around guideposts and those things where you could have somebody else doing that.
Jay, I have a question.
Yes.
Have you ever considered, and I'm not sure what the liability is of this, of utilizing summer help kids in high school?
Yeah, they have to be at least 18.
For college?
Correct. And yeah, I mean, a college kid can we got to make sure they stay busy.
Yeah, I know.
So, but it's yeah, that's just a requirement. They gotta be at least 18.
Have you ever tried that? Has the town ever tried that?
Here, we've done it. I've done it elsewhere in other, you know, other towns. We had college kids, you know, summer help. And, you know, part of that, and when we look into that and go through the application process, we also have to consider what it is we're trying to accomplish. So as a manager, I'm also looking at experience, you know, of that person. So if they have construction experience, you know, I'm going to put them with the roadside mower. They're going to do some trimming. But, you know, maybe I can have them work the ditch with the crew, help build a catch basin. You know, are they capable of driving the truck back to the shop and picking up some material, you know, without having to oversee them all the time? So there's a lot of little things that factor into that question.
Well, maybe it's something to consider.
Yeah.
Just a thought.
Yeah. No, it is considered.
Okay.
Yeah. You
Any
mean
other
the
questions?
you mean the 16-year-olds or the
No,
high
I
school?
not, well, early college. I mean,
Ye-
sometimes, or if they're in a training program, something environmental, maybe that's something they can do for credit or for something.
Yeah, it's
Maybe help
possible, but
keep the
yeah,
costs down.
18 is really the cutoff
Yeah,
for
I
us
can
here.
understand that. For
Yeah,
16 is a little bit too young.
yep, yep.
I just want to say my son Jason did work for the town 2 summers when he was in college, but he had worked in high school for the state of Connecticut, helping in the parks with the mowing. And that was about 20 years ago, but he did do it a couple summers for the town of Andover.
Okay.
Yeah, and historically, the town used more summer help back when things were done in a more labor intense manner. I mean, I remember talking to my father and he worked for the town as a kid cleaning catch basins when they were still doing it with an entrenching tool. So fortunately we've mechanized a lot of the operations, but yeah, it is there is a valid point and I do think depending on who applies, we would look at a college kid, for the summer help position if it was available.
Okay, does everybody want to move on to like looking at the line items in the budget for Public Works? Real quick, I'm trying, it's like 10 of 9, so.
Diana, I mean, I shook my head. I'm familiar with it. If everybody else didn't want to look at that tonight, that's fine with me. I didn't know what we were doing, so whatever.
We still have to go through, so what we really need to do is just look at the line items that we have proposed to budget, and are they good numbers? Are we all in agreement? Do you know what I mean? So the things that I have questions on is more diesel, gasoline, those kind of things, to make sure we got the right numbers in there. Based on current market. And then looking at where we are year to date, see if our overtime number is okay and everything. Those we do not have to do tonight if everybody is done with it today, that you got enough information on the road work to think about, the request to fund road improvement fund is $330,000 for this proposed budget. So I think you got plenty of information tonight to support that. If anybody has any questions on anything. It's really 8:54, so I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I
mean-
think I'm good. I think it's just my
Yeah.
own, whatever, any question that I wanted to ask.
Yeah, I mean, I know we just got an updated spreadsheet from Sherry today, so I don't know if everybody wants to have a chance to look at that, and then we can pick it up on next week.
Okay, I
Good
mean,
with
if you want, I could share my screen now, if you wanted to do a quick review of it, or not. It's basically whatever you want to do.
How long you guys want to work?
I know
they
someone
have
else has to, unless we look at it real quick and if anything stands out, I don't know, Diane, you decide. I'm either way, it doesn't matter.
Right. Linda, Louise, Kurt, Rob?
Well, I don't mind doing a quick review now. It's one less thing we'll have to worry about, or we can just ask questions next week instead of going through it.
All right, Eric, if you could show
Same
your
with me.
screen, we could
Yeah,
just
go
run through
ahead.
it.
Give me a second. Okay, do you all see that?
Certainly do.
Okay, so that is the main public works line item. As you see, the two big changes right off the bat are in the salary line and also the temp salary, and a little bit less in the overtime salary for public works. Those represent kind of the biggest single change in that budget. And the first one, that is that is the cost of an additional employee for public works compared to today. the salary. And then there's also benefits cost associated with it. That would be for hiring one maintainer one. Yeah. And so that those two, you can see what those work out to be. Obviously, if we didn't add the extra maintainer one, that line item would go down considerably. The salary temp help, that's the cost basically of hiring a part-time summer helper. There is some extra part-time help.
Can't hear you,
Um,
Steve.
Are you still on?
Yes.
that's budget.
SRX Racing at Stafford,
Oh, I know.
July
Oh.
2nd.
Hey Kurt, we can hear you.
Rhoda.
You had asked a question about fuel, the diesel contract.
Hold on a second. Can we go back to overtime for Public Works, the 112? I just want to give everybody a point of reference. We're requesting $9,000. That's an increase. Year to date, is the last expenditure report, we've spent $8,190. So it seems like, we wouldn't, unless it's storm related, we wouldn't have any significant overtime between now and the fiscal year end, right?
Well, hopefully.
So
I mean,
hopefully- So
you
I'm
know.
just trying to benchmark, is $9,000 a good number? When year to date, we're at $8,190.
so, I mean, I think part of the problem is we did have a lot of storm related stuff we had to deal with last year. I mean, you're kind of reading tea leaves to try to figure out how much.
I just want everybody to know, because,
Right. I mean, one of my first year here, we essentially spent $0 in overtime costs. The last 2 years we've had quite a bit. It's been majority storm related. There are times when it makes sense to keep the crew longer on a project. If you've got an hour to finish up a project, it's a lot more efficient to knock it out than bring everything back to the shop, lock it up, come back the next day, finish the last hour. So there are times, non-storm related, when it makes sense to, just for the sake of efficiency, to pay the differential cost for overtime. So there's always going to be some. Hopefully we can make it work.
I'm just saying, it's an increase and it seems like we're trending in that number anyway, so it's not like anything we can do with that.
Yep.
Vehicle maintenance is like, this is the funny one, right? Because we have a big expense in there that we normally wouldn't have.
Okay, so here's the thing with vehicle maintenance. Jay originally requested 62,000, but that included two items. And Jay, if I recall, that included the replacement for the main conveyor belt for the sweeper. And then that was a replacement flail for our roadside mower. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, the mower head, the mower head for the roadside mower and replacing the belts for the sweeper, the main conveyor, to rebuild that.
Right. Now, the Board of
Yeah, it was-
Selectmen did not fund that $30,000 because they felt that was a capital. Those were expensive enough things. They were a capital item. So that's why there's a difference between the original department request and what the Board of Selectmen approved. The reality is, though, given what we've proposed to spend out of capital, there's not money in capital to spend it. So I mean, I think there's a chance we could pull off buying the belt, but we're probably not going to replace the mower head, the flail mower, given that, vehicle maintenance budget.
That's a $10,000 increase from last year. Basically, okay. All right.
Yeah, maintenance, to be totally honest, maintenance has been, we've been working pretty hard to make sure make sure our equipment is ready to go. And, you know, there was some things deferred, some things happened, and it took quite a bit to get things into shape. I can't really foresee that it's gonna go up more than that, but this is kind of where we're at right now.
Okay. I mean, year to date, we've spent $27,253, but that includes that large repair that got taken out of here that we didn't.
Yeah, the $7,000, and it was like 78, we'll call it $7,800 for the rust repairs to the truck body.
Right.
And there was a few other big ticket items that came along. So, yeah,
All right.
yeah, we had some brake repairs that we weren't really expecting, but it happens. So, yep.
I guess the other two items we should talk about is diesel and gasoline. Whether those are good numbers, right?
So I'll tackle gasoline. So I went back and pulled 12 months of data from Public Works, from our WEX fuel cards. And I supplied that to the Board of Finance. And the basic conclusion is that between the two vehicles plus ancillary stuff like mowers and stuff like that, we're consuming 2,350 gallons in a 12-month period. So since we had the same vehicles for that 12 months we've tracked, that should stay fairly constant from year to year because we're not anticipating adding other gasoline vehicles to the fleet, at least at this point. So then the question becomes, what do we assume our per gallon cost for gasoline? I gave you a sheet which basically says what number we would budget if we assumed $3.50 a gallon, what number $4 a gallon, and what number $4.50 a gallon. And I arbitrarily picked $4 a gallon, you know, as the benchmark. And if you pick $4 a gallon for Public Works, it works out to about $9,400 a year in gas. But I mean, I have no idea what gas prices are going to be. My guesses are going to come down and they're going to be less than 4, but I don't know.
I mean, they're
So
not at
that-
now, so I mean, so we know going into the summer, right? Gas isn't going down
No, who
Unless-
knows?
unless demand goes down. And it depends whether demand goes down. You know, are people gonna drive? I don't know. So I
Well,
mean,
but I mean, the cost of oil has already come way down,
you know,
yet the cost of gas hasn't really dropped yet. And why is that? I mean,
people are greedy.
so, I mean,
I don't think it would go lower than 9,400. I mean, anybody else have, year to date, we've spent $7,149 on gas. And so, and we've only had the high prices, what, for the last 2 months, 3 months?
yep.
Right, so it seems 9,400 will get us the increase. Whether that'll be a good number is the crystal ball factor. We don't know.
Right, we have to pick a number.
Right.
You know, we're throwing a dart at a board here. We
Yep.
don't know for sure. We should err on the side of caution.
Right. My question to the board is, does anybody think it should be higher than $4 a gallon for the estimate?
I think with bulk pricing, I don't know. I think that's a reasonable estimate.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I
Okay.
don't think we're gonna, and it's not a huge, ticket item, so I think we can afford to just use that as I mean, it's huge, but you know what I mean.
Does this fuel cost? It does not include senior transportation in there. They have their own line item for that, right?
Correct. And if you look at the budget, I adjusted senior transportation on that same scheme. I used $4 a gallon. I figured out exactly how many gallons they've used in the last 12 months. And then I upped that by about 15%. Because if you look at senior transportation and the requests for medical transport, they've been going up, they've been trending up significantly for the last 4 years. And I don't see any reason why that's going to change. So I think we're going to keep having, and it's just straight due to the increase in our population in that 75 and older category that likely relies on senior transportation. For providing medical care and, getting food shopping and stuff like that. So that's what I did for senior transportation to develop that number, use that same guideline.
What about diesel?
So diesel, the good news is we've already locked in for the year. Sherry can probably give you the exact
For this
details
fiscal
on that.
year, the new fiscal year?
Yeah, we're already locked in for next fiscal year for diesel prices. And we're locked in, I want to say around Sherry, do you remember exactly?
Yeah, 229.
$2.29 a gallon.
Yep.
Oh, this $14,000 is just for public works
Well,
in that number?
Yes and
Year
no.
to date in public works, we've spent $12,800 approximately. That's on the last expenditure report we got tonight.
All right.
So,
Keep in mind that the diesel tank at the Public Works also supplies the firehouse and the buses.
I just don't know how many gallons, so go back and look.
I just want to check because I get it that we have one tank and then several department uses it, but we bill out the other departments, right? So
Right.
this cost should just reflect the cost for public works, right? Just wanna make
Correct.
sure of that. And if we
Yeah.
have a price locked in, it should be easier to calculate what it should be, right?
Right.
And I don't know what last year's price is based on, so
I'll take a look at the,
last year we
I'll
budgeted
take a look
$14,000 too, so I would have expected that our contract for this year would be higher than last year.
but we had a lower price last year too.
We budgeted
It
the
was a
same
lower price
number,
per
so I don't
gallon,
know.
maybe.
Yeah, but last year the price would be lower,
Yeah, I
so
don't, that's why
why
I
is
don't
there an
know.
increase for this year is what, I guess what I'm asking. I think-
Diane,
Yes,
I don't know if I can shed some light on that or not, but currently our diesel price
Yeah.
is $1.82 a gallon.
yeah,
And so when I do the reports, because the reports for each department are processed here, I calculate what the cost is for each department, and then pass it along for Sherry and Marina to bill out. So
Right.
for Public Works currently here, we've spent a little less than $6,000. So in fuel for us. What
We
the
just-
what the
because the report-
buses, and
the
then
report says $12,800.
what's that?
Our current expenditure report that we reviewed tonight says diesel for public works, year-to-date expense is $12,892.
Right, and that's probably combined fire department, senior transportation, and us. And then the buses have a cost too. But I don't know if the buses come. The buses must go right to the school. Would that be right,
Right.
Sherry? When that bill, so they have their own
Yeah.
diesel line item. So
Yeah.
our total diesel cost is is the fire department, senior center, or senior transportation and us combined. But just for this department, I've got it at like 50, like I said, a little over $5,500.
So that's where I'm confused. So our current expense of $12,892 in this account today is Public Works, Senior Transportation,
And fire department.
The
And
fire
fire
department. Yep.
okay.
Yeah,
But
so
does the fire department budget for their own? Why would we have fire department in there if they have a budget?
Yes, we do.
So that's my question, how that works.
We have our own budget based on what the number is that's locked in. And then we pay for it as used. We get the bill from from town hall, and then they pay the bill.
But we shouldn't put the fire department expense into Public Works if the fire department pays their own.
Correct.
This is,
So
I'll
let's
ask
do some
Marina.
research on that and figure that out.
This is a Marina question because she handles this for diesel and with all the departments. So I will ask that question and I'll get more details for next time.
this is how it was set up since I came on board, that the diesel was combined all in one into the public works, and then how the, department, this was in place before Marina.
But
It's
it's
just
not fair to Public's work because it's not all your expense.
Right, so Diane, my understanding is what happens is, when we fill up, it's a big bill, it's many thousands of dollars.
Right.
That all gets dumped into, that expense all gets dumped into Public Works, but then it gets transferred out later when we bill all the individual departments. That's how it used to work. And I think it's partly because we don't bill. Jay, how often do we send out bills? How often do you break out the bill to the fire department? So on and so forth.
I do it at least every couple of months. I try to do it. I try to get it over there every month, but this old computer doesn't cooperate sometimes, and I gotta finagle it that the system runs on. So it's been every couple of months that I get stuff over to Marina.
So we should look at figuring that out and making sure we're correctly assessing the costs.
By department, right.
Yeah,
Right.
I'll take a look at it and I'll give you all that information
All right,
next meeting, okay?
that's good. Anybody else have any other questions? That's sticking out.
And then
I have a
the
question. Can I ask a question about under the snow removal budget? So I take it when we have a big snow event, we hire outside contractors. They're not employees, right? They're 1099s. They're subcontractors.
No, we don't have any outside contractors.
What about Mark Williams and the people that plow? He's an employee of the town?
He's a temp part-time employee, but he is an employee.
So there's no, so there shouldn't be any numbers in contractor snow removal because we don't have any contractors that we pay.
Right, not any, yes, correct. There is.
So if we have an event where we have to hire these temp people to supplement our town employees, even though they're temporary employees, it shows up in the public works salary line item? Because the snow removal is only overtime, right? So.
I think it showed, we put everything in the OT snow removal line item. That covers everything.
So
Right,
that would be the temp help plus regular town employees overtime for snow removal.
Correct. We've never broken out separately the cost of the temp help for snow removal.
Okay.
right.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know.
And remember, that was one that got trimmed down to 15,000, 25,000 last year.
Right,
Because for 2 years in a row, we had been consistently under that. You know, we had pretty mild years, but again, you know, those numbers are all over the map depending on what they deal with.
right. So now, my other question is, that supplies number 642 from last fiscal year, that included salt, right? And now we're breaking salt out separately because that's how the Board of Selectmen wanted salt to be a separate line item, correct?
Correct.
Right.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I screwed up when I added the salt back in there. I did not subtract it from the
Okay,
standing equipment line item. So that was
okay,
my error. That should have been, I think, 7,700.
all right,
And
okay,
so that's my screw.
okay. So,
So
All
let me
right.
just highlight that so we remember to change that.
So you messed it up.
Screwed it
you.
up.
Thank you. I just went through all that. Appreciate that.
Well, you can't get good help
Okay.
these days.
Okay, I'll take a look at that and make sure that's right.
all right, I don't have any other questions on Public Works. Does anybody else have any questions on the Public Works line items? Joanne?
I just had a follow-up to the temp employee question. Do we have many of those people?
Right?
For snow removal?
Well, I mean, just in general, because if we're considering other employees down the line, is there many, do you have many temp employees either for snow removal or for cutting grass? So I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, no, we don't.
No,
So,
for this one person that she brought up?
correct.
Okay.
There is another, there was one other person that we used last year when Mark Williams wasn't available. That, somebody that lives in town, and he was qualified, and we used him as well.
Okay.
But we didn't use him this year.
Thank
So we
you.
have a pool of 2 people to draw on, but if, most of the time, if it's a bad storm, it's only one person that's being called on, right? So,
Correct.
Right, and the guy we used, Mark Williams, was a former town public works employee
right,
that eventually started his own business, and he's been temping for Andover for probably 30 years, something like that.
The thought that crossed my mind and why I asked was, you never know who would want to be like a temp to a permanent person, but I'm seeing where you're going as far as people coming on board or being a seasonal person or something like that. So
Sure,
there's
and
Yep.
and we did that because one of our current employees had been a summer helper for about 5 years running the roadside mower when we had money for it. We eventually hired him.
and that's what I've seen happen a lot. And that's where my mind was going. Okay, thanks.
all right, does anybody have any other questions before we wrap this up?
I have one last one.
Go ahead.
The scrap surplus money, is that something that you guys do here, or is that another time? Did you see that? The request from us?
I saw that in the packet, but I didn't see it on the agenda, so I didn't know what we were doing on that, so,
Oh, that wasn't part of the
no.
Public Works presentation kind of thing?
So I get the concept. We sold scrap metal, we have money, we want to spend it. My question is how we do it. Maybe Sherry's gonna have to do some research on this because so now we have this income item. We can't just offset the expense item with it. So in essence, we're asking, this is the supplies budget in Public Works that it's fall under?
Tools?
Schools.
Yeah.
What number
or
is it?
Equipment, right?
What number is it that it was?
Uh,
The last three numbers, that's all I need.
730.
730. Okay,
Yeah.
Equipment Public Works. So we have a budget of $6,400 and we only have a year-to-date expense of $854. So technically, we wouldn't be overspending that line item to buy that stuff that you want. So we would just take that scrap metal into a miscellaneous income account, Sherry?
Well, technically, I'm
Yeah,
forecasted to be,
as long as we earmark it, you
Right.
know. Unless you want to have a scrap metal revenue.
I think
account.
it's just a miscellaneous thing, as long as we have notations to know what it was.
Okay,
Because I don't think it's an ongoing thing. It's just like we had this little bit
Right.
of windfall, so to speak. They want
Well,
to spend it on equipment, but their equipment's not overspent yet, so we really,
okay.
we may
So,
need to transfer money from that into their account at year end if it becomes overspent, right? Is that how we would do it?
yes. Well, either that or we leave it in revenue to offset the expenditure, you know?
Right, but we wouldn't put it in we wouldn't offset the expense on the expense item. We'd have revenue and then.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Revenue on one side and expense on the
You
other.
don't need our approval to do it. It's just accounting for that revenue coming in. Sherry's got to find a home for that. And then if that line item gets overexpended as we get closer to year end, then we'll have to, do balance transfers to fix it.
I guess what he's saying is he has some bunch of things and he's anticipating that given current trends, he will overexpend that account. And the question is, does he have permission to expend it by that difference?
Well, see, I can't tell you that because right now I don't see the overexpenditure in the account. As where we are right now, we know what's going to happen in the future. Right? But we can't deal with a future event.
That,
And correct me if anybody disagrees. I think if we have this money, we put it in a revenue account somewhere, miscellaneous revenue, so we know it's there. You spend it out of this account. And when we overexpend that line item, then we have to reconcile it at year end.
Right,
Use that money to offset it.
and that's in essence way the auditor wants us to start getting that mindset and,
Right. I don't think you need any approval from us to do that
okay,
because you're not overexpended yet.
Jay,
All right.
Jay, is there enough money in that steel account to buy that ramp belt you need for the sweeper?
no,
Okay.
No.
just wanna-
no. No, the current items that I listed, that we'd like to get, that's like, we don't have a 24-volt battery charger. We got equipment now that's got 24 volts. Our existing battery charger is pretty old. It works, sometimes it doesn't, and there's a few other items that would make things a little safer, like the jack stands and that. So I was just trying to show that we had a way to spend the money that we brought in because of scrapping the stuff that's been
Right.
sitting around here for some time.
Understand.
Conceptually, I don't have a problem with that. I don't know if anybody else has a difference of opinion on the board. Because here it is. Find it. So you're talking about he's collected $3,421. So if we put that in a, some kind of a revenue account, then as he spends the money, and when his account becomes overexpended, we will use that money to backfill it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was trying to interject. I agree. Just put it in the right account and then keep track.
Right.
And like Sherry said, do things the proper way or whatever. It makes good sense. They collected the scrap metal. They should be able to spend it on the things that they need.
Yep.
I'm in agreement.
I don't think you need formal approval from us because you're not overexpended yet anyways.
Okay.
Does anybody have a difference of opinion on the board that you say, no, you don't want them to spend that money that they dug out of the scrap pile?
I'm
I think
okay
it's a
with it.
great idea.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
I think that's just fine.
That's fine.
I have a further question on those three, the equipment, signs and tools. Why are they broken out if they're all combined on the right-hand side? Why aren't they being shown separately? For the finance part of it, the money part of it.
In 2021, that's the way the chart of accounts was. When I came on board in March, I was
Yeah.
asked to please set up a uniform chart of accounts. So I've been trying to get to that point where I built a crosswalk and I provided that to the board, where we just call everything the supplies that are supplies truly. And then equipment, that items that are equipment. And then we have like sanding equipment and we just have regular equipment. So we're trying to get to the point where we have this uniform chart of accounts that goes along with what the state has. And we were told to do that. So,
So in other words, last fiscal year, we were using a different piece of software. When we converted to the new software,
right.
we
Okay.
condensed like items into a single account instead of having all these extra accounts with a lot of little titty bit things in it. So we were just trying to clean that up. So Sherry
So-
gave a cheat sheet to say, these three items are now all in this new account.
Okay, so eventually that's going to be just one line item.
Right.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, and once we get to next year and we're comparing last year's numbers, the only reason those are still in there and on the spreadsheet is because in previous years they were broken out. We left them in there. So next year we're
Right.
going to be able to get rid of a whole bunch of these line items because they're not going to match, so we'll have last year's
Right.
expenses
Right.
budgeted and
That is
approved.
correct.
And so you'll see a much more condensed spreadsheet
Yep.
next year when we get to this.
Okay, any other questions anybody has? Going, gonna move on to approval of meeting minutes.
Before we do that, I just want to say one thing real quick. And that you had asked me at the last meeting to show my methodology and figure out what the true cost for library payroll is. I had done that. In your packet, there is a Word doc that basically what I did, because some of the employees got more than a 3% increase.
Because they're bringing them up to minimum wage.
Right. So I backed out all the costs. The bottom line is it's about $1,000 more than was originally in the budget that the library put forward to me. So I corrected that, and that's in your budget now.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on that for Eric?
Just on that, Eric, did some of them now say 6% increases then?
Yes.
All right, yeah, I
Yes.
did take a look at it since you
That
brought
will
it
be a
up.
combination of bringing them up to minimum wage.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we brought them to minimum and gave them the 3%?
Right.
No, we
Correct.
just brought them up to minimum wage. So
Right.
basically, anybody that was making more than minimum wage got a 3%
$14.
raise. Anybody making less than minimum wage got brought up to minimum wage. So we're legal, basically.
No,
And
we
okay.
will be legal in the
Be
next
greater
budget.
than a 3% increase.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
thought I have to look at it again because I saw these 6.6s, but that's fine.
Right,
Thank you.
but that is because they were making around $13 an hour. And to
Right.
bring them up to 14, which will be minimum wage in the
Is
next
six-
fiscal year,
is the
comes out to
percentage.
6.6%.
Got it.
So that's
Thank
what
you.
accounts for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's gonna
Makes
break the
sense.
budget, folks, right there. There it is.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not just-
I was saying it.
Yeah. I'm not
Yeah.
disputing, but I wanted to know the 6%.
I'm just messing, Joanne.
Right.
Thank you.
And by the way, that is part of the difference in the budget for the elections, is the fact that a whole series of the election workers make, essentially their rate needs to increase to $14 to make minimum wage next year also. So that does
Right.
affect a couple departments within town.
Right,
Yeah.
and we did correct all that, so in that spreadsheet. It should be good.
Any other questions, guys? All right, moving on. Approval of meeting minutes. We have 4 meeting minutes to approve. Can I have a motion? So the motion would be, I'll say the motion, so then someone can. The motion would be approval of the meeting minutes for February 23rd, 2022, March 2nd, 2022, March 9th, 2022, and March 16th, 2022.
I so move.
Rob, England, motions. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second from Louise. Any discussion? No, all in favor? Aye,
Aye.
Aye.
aye. Kurt, are you abstaining?
I'm abstaining.
Okay. All right. Got that, Eric?
So that should be, motion carries 501
Yeah,
with Kurt abstaining.
yeah.
Yep.
All right. Liaison reports. Do we have any?
There was no CIP this month, so
Okay,
there's nothing to report there.
all right. We already
Um,
talked about the community center. Linda, do you have anything?
I'm all set.
All right, any open board discussion? Anything anybody wants to say? Add? Joanne?
I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm fried. So
Yeah. But I
That's like,
just one thing, Rob, I was gonna say, so next week we have another meeting, correct?
yes,
Open board, so we have another
Yeah.
budget meeting on Wednesday.
Yep.
Then I think we've heard from every big entity we needed to hear from.
right.
So I guess we'll all just be reviewing, right? And
yeah, it's going to be decision time soon, and
Yeah.
hopefully we'll get Mark back, and we can hopefully get everybody involved. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
at this point our information gathering
Yeah.
is basically done,
Mhm.
and now we have to do what we do.
Sounds good. That's all I wanted, set the stage for next week, now that we've had those. Yeah, thanks.
So just real quick from the board, other than the information that we've talked about, which was basically diesel, and there weren't that many other line items you really asked us to look at, what is it that you want us to look at between now and next week?
the only thing I have outstanding on my wish list of things that I want, but I don't think it affects our decision making. I just wanted an accounting of the funds from last fiscal year. We know what we put into them, but what expenses did we pay out of those funds? Because we never see the expense side of those funds. We just see these transfers into these funds, and that's all that hits our budget. But we should be looking at the expenses on those funds as a board. But that shouldn't affect our decisions on anything. It's just information we need to have.
Eric, my general take would be going into our next meeting or two, maybe think about the areas where we have the biggest increases. Pick 3 or 5, and let's talk about those. I know we probably already talked about them. Don't get me wrong. What I mean is that when the board sits down and goes through the budget, and let's be honest, sits down to think about what we're going to cut, because we're probably going to do that. Thinking about explaining why we need this, that, and the other, these top 5 items that are the biggest jumps, maybe one of them is just straight up, hey, look, diesel costs more or whatever, number 2, heating oil costs more because that's where we're at now. But things like that, that's my gut reaction is for our board discussion when we sit down to try and work this budget up and produce something that is, as I always say, responsible and passable. That's my take. Like, something that is $5,000, I don't, whatever. Let's focus on the bigger ticket items.
Okay.
Does that make sense to everybody? I hope so.
Did, I want to add one thing too. Oh, there we go. I was making sure I could be heard. I like that document, Eric. I'm hoping it's updated. The one you have, it's in the spreadsheet, or Sherry, just the one that where the mill rate is computed and the increases, just with if there's been any changes. I think you've got, do you know which one I'm talking about? It
It's on
shows
the
the
revenue tab, and
Yeah.
and we still haven't
Revenue.
talked about the whole revenue side yet, so.
Revenue side, yes, that's updated.
Yeah, and
Right.
I have it. So for I just want to make sure that whatever we have available before our meeting next week is the latest up to date. If it's already there, great. I look at it all the time. But if there's been any revenue that's changed or a couple of things you talked about tonight, Sherry, if that's been updated, that little piece, that's important to me.
That, what I
can see a
talked about
snapshot.
tonight, Joanne, it has been already updated in that
Thank
spreadsheet.
you. That's my
Yeah,
piece.
I just gotta do the back in the internal journal entries. I have to take care of that with the auditor tomorrow, but that's fine.
Okay.
The revenue itself is been,
And then we'll have an updated revenue report that will give us the actuals for this year, which we don't have in this spreadsheet, but we have, she put in the unaudited items for last fiscal year.
And then my last thing was just
Yeah.
kind of priorities. If we are going to get to the business of cutting or whenever that comes, I just want to hear from, like we have a good overview from Public Works tonight, but what are the priorities? Is a person more important? I'm not saying we're doing cutting, but is the road work is the main thing? I don't know. I guess I would just, the equipment. And yeah, that's my thing.
Eric, you gave us in your summary a capital expense, right? Thing for,
Yeah, a while back, I gave you a capital expense summary.
is that still accurate?
Yeah, I don't think there's anything
You
that's really
gave us
changed.
a worksheet that says 21, 22 proposed, 21, 22 funded, 22, 23 proposed, and current balances, okay?
Right. The current balances are probably off because that's,
Okay,
probably 3 months out of date at this point.
all right,
Why don't we bring that up to date for the next meeting?
yeah.
That seems like a good call since we're gonna be looking at all of this. I mean, capital to me is one of the big factors here, right?
Right.
Something
Here's all
that we
those
have
funds, right, right. but-
repeatedly shorted, so.
Right,
Right.
so we have the
So you-
information, we just need current balances on them.
Okay.
Anything else, guys? Do we have anybody for public speak? Let me see. Oh, did you wanna?
Yeah, I'll just give a quick,
Okay.
so I received an email from someone that you're all familiar with, Marcy Miner, who speaks out quite a bit at these meetings and will have questions down the road. So she had sent me an email, so I just wanted to disclose that, asking a few questions about the school's budget and, things of that nature. So she, like Louise mentioned, she will be present, I'm sure. She will, if that page on the website is open, I'll ask her to submit any, questions there, but there were some very simple questions that I could just answer. I mean, she could look back at the meetings and hear them as well, but other than that, she's just very interested, and we'll have some questions about the educational budget down the line.
Mhm.
All right. Anybody else have anything else they want to say? We have a motion
Good.
to adjourn?
I'll motion to, do I say to adjourn the meeting, right? To end the meeting?
Yes,
Yes.
Yes. Do we have
and
a
I will
second?
second it.
Rob second, so Joanne's motion to adjourn.
done,
Rob
Joanne.
Second. Any, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right.
Thank you,
thanks,
Jen,
everybody.
for staying for our whole meeting.